So when I came across Star Atlas and I read the white paper and I read the economics paper, and then I moved and I pivoted towards all the YouTubes of Michael Wagner, and I said, this has real substance.
We're trying to fix Kelsey's permissions, and we will start, guys. Sorry for the little delay. But yeah. And I think it's better to host it here than in the amphitheater, because you guys can chime in at any time, and I feel like that's better.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Kelsey, man, welcome.
Welcome. Where did I go? Hold on. So I had to join my phone. I don't know what's wrong with my laptop, so I wasn't able to join. Let me go back to the other real quick, if I may.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Can everyone hear me right? Because I'm not sure if my connection is working.
Yeah, I can hear you.
For sure.
Yes, Andy.
Loud and clear.
Perfect.
Yes, sir. All right, Santi, it's Kelsey. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We can hear you, Kelsey.
Guys, I'm so sorry about that, man. I've been on my laptop and I use this every day with the team, but it's just not allowing the voice. So I'm joining via myself. So if not one path, we got another. So glad you can hear me.
No problem, man. We can actually hear you perfectly, so no worries. No worries.
Awesome. Cool, man. Sorry for the delay.
Yeah. No problem. No problem. Let's officially start the event then. This is the Working at Star Atlas special event. If it goes well, we may host it again, but it's just like a special edition. Okay, I can hear a lot of noises. And yeah, this is not a town hall, so we are not going to cover all the news like we always do in the town halls. We are going to speak about what it is like to work at Star Atlas, and give you some little insight on how the team is structured and what are Kelsey's and Steven's roles at Star Atlas. Again, if you can't type and if you can't speak and you want to type, we'll be reading you in the voice chat related channel. And if you want to talk at any time, we will be opening the conversation for everyone. So, yep, I think we are good to go. Again, I will ask you, Kelsey. Steven is, I think we already know him, but so we will start with Kelsey. Kelsey, how are you? Welcome to the voice chat channel here. And please tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Star Atlas, so everybody can get to know you.
Yeah, man. First of all, thanks for having me here, and I just love engaging with our community. So this is special, and I was really looking forward to it. And if there's some noise in the background, I apologize in advance. I'll try to kind of mute that as best I can. But let me rewind a little bit, and I won't be too verbose about it, but I think some context is important here too, to kind of bring me in my journey, my story. So if I rewind a little bit, I've been in human resources for years. I'm not going to date myself, but I've got a few years of experience on my belt. And years ago, I was pretty lost and unsure what to do. I was really disillusioned, quite frankly, and I fell into HR, truth be told. My first foray was in talent acquisition, and I was hiring seasonal people. And I have to say that kind of the first on-the-job training was I only looked at skills originally. That was it. I thought that's how you filled positions. You look at skills. And I realized it's just early on that was a mistake. And what I mean by that is people are more than just skills. There's so much more to all of us and our interests and what makes us human beings. And so over the many years, I've really tried to separate where a lot of companies might look and talk just skills and what you can fill in terms of skills, and really look at a whole person And through that lens, I did embark on an HR career. I worked at a company called Level 3 Communications in Colorado, 11 years, all in HR. Then I had the fortunate opportunity to lead HR for a global public company for about 8 years. Worked with the board of directors, comp committee. And I'll tell you this, I felt so fortunate to be able to travel the globe and meet people from different walks of life, from speaking different languages to different cultures and norms and laws. And as different as we may be, there's some real commonality that really makes us human beings, that makes us special, that it's really fascinating to bring in the workplace. And I was fortunate to have all of that experience. About that point, I kind of had a professional midlife crisis a few years ago. I loved what I did from a talent lens, but I was really unsure about the companies I was working for. And that's not a knock on them. It's just where I spent my free time in evenings and weekends was in the gaming community, but also crypto. Crypto about 5-6 years ago. Certainly not before Stephen, who will speak in a moment. I think he may be Satoshi, but I may be wrong. But I got in around the 16, 17 ICO craze, and I felt all the FOMO and FUD, and I treated it as a hobby, and that was a mistake. But since then, I've gone pretty deep. I understand the space. I firmly believe in the permissionless, trustless, distributed ledgers, peer-to-peer transactions, et cetera, et cetera. So from an HR lens, that's an interest, and certainly one that I firmly believe in. So I went deep into Discord, and I really sought out companies to say, is this really going to be who I am and what I represent? I went deep into Discord. I met with a lot of different companies, and gaming is powerful to me. Gaming is one of the most unifying platforms on a global basis. And when you look at kind of crypto and gaming, I understand that not everyone may firmly see the benefits. They may see some concerns, and we get that. It's a nascent industry within the gaming space, but I see all the benefits. So when I came across Star Atlas and I read the white paper and I read the economics paper, and then I moved and I pivoted towards all the YouTubes with Michael Wagner, I said, this has real substance. What resonates with me is gaming. I really understand that even though for the layperson, they might view this as a game, but we all know it's more than that. It's a metaverse. When you bring in blockchain mechanics with immutable history, you just can't unplug your game and reset and start over. This has legs in history. And people really can build something that is honestly a parallel life. And all of that, from my lens and who I am as a being, resonates with who I am. Then I had the opportunity, and I reached out. It was me seeking out Star Atlas versus them seeking me. And I had some real conversations with people. And I'll tell you this, and I'll leave you with this, and I'll answer questions if you want. If I wasn't sold already, when you meet with the founders from Michael and Pablo and Danny and Jacob, and then you meet people like Asante, and you meet others who are very authentic people who are committed to their own just causes and what they want to do. All of that is pretty moving. And then when you meet with the founders and understand that this is no joke, this is a serious lifetime endeavor to really do what the white and economics papers set out in terms of our vision and the commitment levels. When you hear from them talking about power of the people, and they talk about moving towards a distributed autonomous organization, a DAO, and how we can structure this in the long term, this is home to me, man. This is everything to what I've been wanting to do to bring my talent experience, but yet in an enterprise that finally feels like it meshes with everything who I am going forward. So I'm just pleased to be here. I'd love to talk more about the environment and so forth, but that's just a little bit about me, Santi.
Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing all this. We can really, let me tell you that we can really feel the passion, man. We can really feel it. And something that's interesting to me is that you were a community member first, right? You joined the community before being hired. Yeah. That's really cool, man. So you went from community member to Chief Human Resources Officer. Congrats.
Yeah. I actually did a lot of probing. I reached out to people, and I can reveal it. There are some people now at Star Atlas that I befriended before we both joined, and we talked about different opportunities, and we were kind of weighing them, quite frankly, together, and we went through checklists to kind of figure it out. But yeah, it's if this is not a light endeavor, and this is a big commitment where I want to spend my time going forward. So yeah, I didn't shortchange that due diligence, Santi.
That is great, man. That is great. Thank you for sharing all this. So if anyone has any personal questions for Kelsey, just feel free to open the mic right now. If not, we'll move with a little introduction from Steven as well. Don't be shy. Yeah? I think we had someone.
No, that was me, Santi. I was going to see if I could introduce Steven, if that's all right with you.
Oh, I have a question for you, actually. What would you say is the biggest difference from working in a traditional job in HR and then moving to Star Atlas? And then actually I have another follow-up question with that one. How did you come to be from first being a community member to joining the Star Atlas team? Who did you get in contact with? How did that process kind of go about?
Yeah, man, I love it. It's a great question. So I want to be careful because I do feel fortunate for my background, and I've worked hard for my network and experiences, and I don't feel like I'm a natural HR person. I've been in it for years and years, and I lean on so many mentors. People don't even know they're mentors to me, but I have my own philosophy of leadership and hire smarter than me, really empower them, get out of their way. There's certain things that I think that's helped me be at least as successful as possible. But to answer your first question, this is not knocking different environments. Pre-pandemic, I think the world was moving more towards less of a work-life balance. That was more my generation. The next generation is work-life integration, and there's a complete distinction. Gen Z kind of generation will look at integrating, work and life because of our mobility and access to information and knowledge. My generation was more 8 to 5, and when you're done, and you try to separate that. Going forward, it's really a machination of the two. That might sound more philosophical, but the driver of that is just critically important. Also, the world keeps getting smaller and smaller based on technology. So when we talk about moving more to a hybrid or even a remote first environment for those companies that can afford it, like manufacturing and hospitality cannot, but there's a ton of jobs that can be remote based, and companies, old school, still don't do that because they feel like that face-to-face time is more important than allowing a little bit more of that personal freedom to allow people to kind of work when they want and live and operate where they want. So the future of work is moving more towards hybrid and remote, and we need more tools to have that synchronous communication to make sure everyone's aligned. But the pandemic wasn't the driver of it, but the pandemic's been a major catalyst of that. So going forward, you're going to see less kind of required times, and it's going to be based more on deliverables, and you're going to have more tools to really track your deliverables and communication on those deliverables going forward, so you can kind of work on those that work better in your what works best for you. We hire a lot of artists, and when we think of our work environment, we want our artists to really maximize their internal creative genius. And you don't do that by forcing them to be in a cubicle necessarily 8 to 5. You get a lot from it. I'm not knocking that. But you can't force that creativity. If we have a creative artist that wants to go 20 hours straight with headphones on, pumping their music, and they're pumping out their best work, and they want to go dark for 20 hours, that's the freedom, which is, by the way, one of our company values that really kind of fosters that, as long as we have clear deliverables to be able to achieve those things. So that's a long answer, but gives you one example. And to your second question, when I was doing my due diligence and I was in touch with about 5 or 7, 8 different companies, Star Atlas, I was on their Discord, and I usually go dark. I read a lot of comments, and Michael was out there talking about positions, and I sent a note and said, "Hey, you're looking for HR?" And he came back and said, "Yes." And I said, "I'll DM you." And then the next day he said we had a Zoom call, and that 30-minute Zoom call went 2 hours, talking talent, talking about our belief systems, talking about things like that. So it was a great conversation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, I love it. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts, man. I love it, for real. And you can introduce Steven. I will let you introduce Steven. I think it's great.
I want to, because I hold both of you, Santi and Stephen, who are really talking here, are fantastic, and they're certainly great examples of the type of kind of personalities, that whole person I referenced, but also how we vibe, how we kind of operate and work together. Santi, I think the world of you, and I can speak very highly, but I think the community knows you well. Stephen, he spoke on a recent town hall. I sought a talent acquisition person, someone who really can connect with people, and I know HR well, and job description HR are there's a variety, but the recruiting job description is one of the shortest, but it's not an easy gig. You're on all day. You're on calls evening, weekends. You're talking to talent nonstop, pre-screen after pre-screen. When I got to know Stephen, his actual experience in recruiting isn't as direct as you might think, but the guy is authentic and as genuine as they come. He doesn't feign something other than himself. He's been an entrepreneur, so I know he's been a little bit of a risk taker, but he was also vulnerable, very vulnerable about what worked and what didn't. I didn't have to challenge him on that. And I love that we could immediately develop trust. He understands that we're stronger as a team than added up individually, so there was no ego present with him. And he also, from me and my lens, having kind of that first introduction to a lot of potential candidates, I think he's one of the best at really kind of sharing what the internal vibe's like in conversations. We don't even really call them interviews. We call these conversations just to get to know people and understand the value. And if we interview you just on skills in the near term, we're missing out on the ability to lift and shift and possibly have people perform different roles and functions. So Stephen is, man, he's my partner in crime on an everyday basis. And he's a great example of that. So it's a bit, again, long-winded, but Stephen, I'll turn to you, my friend. So the floor is yours.
No, man. Well, first off, thank you for that introduction. It's weird to hear, because definitely honored to be here, talking to you guys and working with you. Truly is, Kelsey. Like every day, I wake up and you know those jobs, guys, where like you don't like it because you don't like the people who you're working with. Like you like the gig, right? But like there's people who you're just like, oh, I hate that guy. Like, or maybe they hate you, right? There's none of that here. It's wildly unique in that sense where I love everybody that I work with. I wake up looking forward to communicating and collaborating with the team, and Kelsey, it's really, really great to work with you and be your partner in crime to, basically build out a rock star team here, right? And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So I'm really glad to be here. Thanks, Santi, for hosting this.
Yeah, man, sure. And thank you for guiding us. So the question will be like, can you give us a brief introduction about yourself and what you did in the past, and what is your role at Star Atlas now?
Yeah, man. I done a lot of things across the table since I was a very young kid. I started my first company when I was 16. I was homeschooled, by the way, all my life. And from what I think, that really instilled in me is kind of like this self-discipline. When your mom is your teacher and your dad's the principal, like there isn't this person every single day that's like telling you have to turn in your homework, right? You have due dates maybe once a week, and then you create your schedule, you create your discipline to get your shit done. And so I had this already instillment, perhaps, of a heart of an entrepreneur, even when I was in the kindergarten. But I started my first company when I was 16. My friends were like, hey, I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to just pursue my career as a musician. And I'm like, wow, that's a pretty bold move. I can probably manage you guys and make some introductions into the music industry. I knew maybe like 2 people, But I ended up doing that. And the first band that I managed ended up getting pretty big. It ended up getting signed. And all of a sudden, a bunch of people were asking if I can manage them. And so we created this little artist management company with some cool cats in LA. in Orange County. That's where I'm from. Born and raised Los Angeles. It's actually, I tell people this, it's a very, stereotype thing to do. You're not a true LA native unless at one point you're managing a band, or if you're in a band. So that's what I did. I did that all throughout university as well. I actually thought I wanted to be a talent agent. I watched maybe too much Entourage and thought that was cool. And I thought that I would love it. I ended up working at Creative Artists Agency, which is the biggest talent agency in Hollywood, specifically in their TV lit department. And I fell in love with the space. I just, like I said, I did not like the culture. I didn't like the people who I was interacting with. And, I was a cinema media arts major in school, so I wanted to express a little bit more creativity. And so I went to the film production, creative development side. I went to Fox Searchlight. I loved it. I met amazing businesswomen and businessmen and producers. Like Kelsey has, mentors for a long time. I myself had the opportunity to meet people who have been advisors to me until this day, for the last decade. I had the opportunity to be an early employee, the third employee in a new film studio that was being started at that time in 2011 called STX Entertainment. We raised a lot of money. It was my first exposure to the world of private equity and venture capital, and that inspired me right there. I didn't know you can just start a company and raise money and build a team and execute this vision in this type of massive scale. I didn't even know that was possible. So it inspired me. It really inspired that entrepreneurial heart that I already had to want to do something, to want to be a startup guy. And well, guys, that's what I did. That's what I did.
Got into crypto early as well, right?
Yeah, I got into crypto pretty early. It was December 2012. Not quite Satoshi, Kelsey, but I've been involved in quite a lot of projects. I've been in Panama, for the last 7 years. My wife is Panamanian, and so I like to go back and forth between Los Angeles and Panama now quite often. And also have the opportunity to work on a lot of cool crypto projects out there for the last almost 5-7 years. It's been a wild ride in the world of crypto, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis at Star Atlas.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let me even rewind of why I even got to Star Atlas, because for the last couple years I've been at Tencent, basically working directly with Beijing and taking certain technological modules of what has worked really well in China in their gaming world or in some of their live streaming app world, and then create new business products and find market fit for the Western market. So basically I was doing B2B partnerships and leading their global partnerships division. And I learned a lot. That's where I fell in love with gaming, by the way. I was never a gamer. I played here and there. I was more of your basic 90s kid who played N64 and maybe did some LAN parties with his friends for birthdays. I wasn't your typical gamer. But when I started understanding the gaming community and how it brings people together, like what Kelsey was saying, there's nothing quite like that. I saw there's nothing quite like that. During the pandemic, it was also a difficult time for me. And it was really the community that was in gaming, that was in NFT, that I would say saved my life. It really, I can say it honestly to you guys, it saved my life. Because there were times, as a lot of my friends had times during the pandemic, that it was hard, man. Right? I quit my job at Tencent just because I didn't like the people I was working with. And I was in a Twitterverse looking at projects, and I heard this Star Atlas. I'm like, what is this? I went to the website. I'm like, wow, this is probably the most beautiful website I've seen. Read the white paper, like Kelsey said, very comprehensive. Read a lot of white papers before, but this was epic. And the trailer just blew my mind. And so I was on LinkedIn. I'm like, are they hiring? Are they hiring? I reached out to Kelsey, how could I be a part of this? And at that time he was opening a lot of the job recruiter roles, the talent acquisition roles. I'm like, I can do this. I know I can do this. I believe in the vision. I believe that my passions for cinematic narrative storytelling and gaming and DeFi blockchain and team building that I've been doing in my own little startups for the last 10 years, I can contribute my value to this. And it's been an amazing journey. Been with the company for about almost 6 months now. Can't believe it. Time goes by crazy fast. And it does feel like I've known the team for years. That's the type of culture that we really create. And I think that actually starts with our interview process, right? It starts from that foundation of us getting to know people. Like what Kelsey said, it's non-traditional. We do it differently. And that's what sets literally the foundation of our talent, of our crew of rock stars that we're building, like no other company.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So yeah, if you want, you can tell us a little bit like how a job interview works at Star Atlas. When you apply, first, like how can you apply to Star Atlas, and then what happens when you jump on an interview with someone from the HR team?
For sure. Well, the first thing to do is to reach out to us. You reach out to us just like how you would reach out, like, hey, DM, send us an email on jobs@staratlas.com, and we'll see it. We see every single email that comes through, right? We really take time and we understand people. We learn about who they are. And, you know, we really try, and Kelsey will attest to this, we really try to talk to everybody. We really do. And you know why, Santi? Because you never know where the wizards come out of, right? Some people, they don't have resumes, right? But you get to know them, and they're incredible leaders, and they have incredible value that they can bring to the company, to the organization, to support our team and to help grow it. I can also say that there has been an amazing wave of either retired or active duty military that we'd love to speak to, right? And traditionally, a lot of these individuals perhaps don't have a resume, right? Their resume says U.S. Army or et cetera, et cetera. We'd love to speak to them because the servantless, the servant leadership and the egoless attitudes and the self-starterness and the management skills that a lot of our military have are things you can't put on a resume, right? They're things you don't put on your LinkedIn. And they just happen to be some of the most valuable things that an organization and a company like Star Atlas can have.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to jump in and add to what Steven's saying, if I may, real quick. All that's good, and I'm going to just take 2 minutes to explain a little bit of what we're doing behind the scenes, because Steven's spot on about reaching out to us. If you go to our teams page, you scroll to the bottom, you'll see a couple positions that have been there for a long time. And I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of HR speak, but I've been through this quite extensively. That's called an applicant tracking system, and we've been through a pretty exhaustive process to evaluate different ATSs. We've also been looking at various HRIS or HCM systems that we can scale internationally with, and so we're creating a project in the company to finalize and integrate an ATS and create a different careers website. In the meantime, the best way is that the jobs at staratlas.com and just reach out to us. But at some point, we're going to be able to publish and highlight all of those careers on that page going forward. But even with them out there, those are going to be the current jobs. And we know that to be nimble and agile with their industry, these are going to change in time. If I took one more moment in this space, is how those positions get there is it's through what's called an org design or an OD process. HR generally leads. And we're going through that internally right now, is really looking at our organization and you break down work rules, and you talk about the positions, and we try to forecast what the talent roadmap would be like per quarter, Q1, 2, 3, 4. And so we're going to get ahead of this because we know that at this point, it's a little bit challenging to see what may be desirable right now, but it's going to take another few weeks before all of that's up to date with a pretty cool career site with a ATS landing page, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all forthcoming, but there's several other things that we're doing that I can dive into that's helping mature our talent processes as Steven's still on the front line talking to people. But we will make this easier for people in a very short period of time in Q1 this year.
Can I jump in and ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if this should go to either Kelsey or Steven, but I just had a question about just kind of like the general knowledge of the employees. So I was wondering, what do you personally believe someone must know to do this job well? Like, I understand there are different positions that require different backgrounds, but is there like an overarching factor that you believe everyone should know or should understand by working at Star Atlas?
I think Steven and I can both take a stab at this. Steven, I can maybe go first and you can
fill in a little bit.
Yeah, at first. It's a great question. So when I first spoke at the top of the hour, and one of the first on-the-job training I shared is skills alone, I don't think makes the most well-rounded person that you're trying to bring on board. You know, some of the things that we look for, yeah, granted, we need to make sure that there are skills that generate value for the company. But let me share some other things. Our company values are community, innovation, and freedom. We're dissecting those and really talking about what that means, how to integrate those in our talent acquisition process. What does it look like internally? Community, it's all about you. And we want to have that same vibe internally to the company. Innovation, because we are going to be on the forefront of Web3, DeFi, blockchain games on the Solana network, et cetera, in this metaverse in the future. And innovation is going to be one of the absolutely critical competencies that we need to develop and integrate into our introverse internally to the business. So innovation is key. And the third, freedom. Freedom is everything above compliance. Compliance, I know, is kind of boring, but it's legal. We're not going to do anything to legally compromise what we're creating going forward, but everything above that is freedom and space. So keep in mind those three company values and take those to heart when you come and talk to us. What we look for, these are the things I generally look for, is the freedom of expression. I look for certain things in people about, even though they may not know exactly what they want to do, they're continually striving to understand what that feels like for them. And they feel that they can sit and share and converse in a way that is going to be bridge building rather than bridge burning. If I had to break down specific things, competencies that is agnostic of a job, I look at communication ability. And that's not English as a first language or second, but really about having a cogent thought and really talking about something that's important to them and how they approach people. We don't want to bull in a china shop. For those who may not know that phrase, it's like getting something accomplished, but hurting people along the way. We don't do that. That doesn't jive in our environment. So communication is vitally important about how we connect internally. Beyond that, we're certainly going to size up one's passion. They may not have clarity about what they want to do, but we need to understand that people feel and are moved by things. We don't try to sell the company on people. There's something I talk about when you get talent on board. You can get their brains. You go get a job, that's your brain, that's your job description. How you get their heart is when they're really committed to that cause, that purpose, and they understand that what they do matters and it has that line of sight to what we're trying to achieve, and that's the metaverse. I want people to be able to articulate for me that what they do can really be seen and witnessed in what we're trying to create. If this comes across as maybe just a job and a check, certainly we can sniff that out and we wish them the best of luck and love to see them in the community. But we have to understand that this is something they need to do. This is something that's going to take a lot of time and commitment. And so getting the heart from individuals is important, because you know what comes with the heart? That's your innovation and creativity above and beyond the job description. So hopefully some of that kind of resonates with you. It's very abstract. We get it. That's why we have more conversations and not interviews. We're not going to ask behavioral questions about tell me about a time that you faced such and such. We want to just be talkative and understand what moves you and be vulnerable and kind of get to know the person. The other thing I'll leave you with, and I'll turn to Stephen, is we don't usually do a one and done conversation. I like to have a conversation. I'm more introverted than people think. I need my quiet space and go put my music on and I contemplate. I think about it. And I feel certain things, and I want people to do that too. And I want them to come back having done homework. I want them to have realized that this could be a movement for them as it is for me. And people that come on board like Asante and Stephen, I want them to feel those same things. And so once you have that fire, that passion, I'm telling you, sometimes skills can be learned more than forcing that hard on someone. So with that, I'll hit pause. Hopefully that resonates. I'll turn it over to Stephen.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, I think for me, communication is the number one thing, and it doesn't mean that they have to speak perfect English either, because we're hiring from all over the world. We're in 28 countries now, right? And when I say we're in 28 countries, our workforce, we have individuals that are literally all over the world. And what I think is really special about that is, we're able to exercise how our culture of freedom is implemented and how we actually build out the strategy in building our talent workforce. And so for me, communication is important. I also want to point out that everything we're doing is not even cutting edge, it's bleeding edge, right? Building on Solana, using Unreal Engine 5, like everything, or how we're building out and structuring the DAO, everything that we're doing is quite innovation. And we all know that in the Web3 world, it just goes so fast. Everything goes so fast. So maybe it's something a little bit clunky or seems a little clunky for UI UX or whatever. In 2 weeks, maybe it's like a seamless experience. Like, that's not fast things go sometimes. And so what I'm trying to say is there's this learning curve for everyone. So what I really love to see is, can this person learn quickly? Can they adapt to new environments well and fast? Or do they kind of hold on to these very traditional ways? And if they do hold on to those traditional ways, sometimes we value that too, right? We love to see the other spectrum, make sure that our entire strategy is waterproof. So we like to listen to our critics and, the devil advocate when we try to waterproof our economics, for example. So I really love to see how fast a person can learn, be a fast learner.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Kelsey, for the super detailed answers, guys, for real. I'm sure that I really appreciate it, and the community appreciates it as well. So thank you so much. Not sure if anyone has any questions. I think it's a good moment. If someone wants to ask something, you can unmute yourself and push to talk and ask one question. If not, I have questions for them. Don't worry. But if someone wants to ask,
bring them on, Tanti.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. This is your moment.
I do have one, if that is okay, Santi, and if it's okay with you.
Please.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me. I think I've chatted with Santi a couple of times, been hearing in Twitter, and I'm part of a very vibrant community within Star Atlas, which is the Latin American community, which Santi is proudly part of as well. And I was wondering, and this question has two verticals. Number one, obviously I'm passionate about the project, and I would love to be part of it in a more intricate way by being involved directly with Star Atlas. Myself, I have actually sent my resume a couple of times, and I'm still waiting for a response from your team. But I have been involved in chats from people from our community that are also interested when it comes to that, and people that have very good skill sets and communication skills and things that you might be looking for when it comes to employees that will be able to contribute, but they're a bit skeptical because, where we come from, maybe language barriers. So my question would be, number one, if you have submitted a resume for consideration, how long does it take for it to be considered? And number two, what kind of reassurance do you give to those that might be outside of the US or Europe or Canada that, they still have a shot per se? Santi is a good example of what we can accomplish, and I take, integration of minorities and people outside of those privileged countries to heart. So I would love to bring a message of optimism to them as well. So what would you say to those folks that are, outside of those main countries, that they still have a shot to work for such a cool project? Thank you.
Man, that's awesome.
That's a great question.
Thanks for joining. And Stephen, how about if I jump in real quick and
Yeah, sure.
cover anything I missed? First of all, thanks for being here and sharing. And Stephen and I do try to get back to everyone. And there has been a lot of activity, but we don't like excuses either. Our community is the most important component, and that's what we're doing. And by the way, Stephen and I are members of our community as well, including Santi. That's where I started. Let me also say that Star Atlas is, in my views, is omnipresent. It's a word basically saying that we're intended to be everywhere. And it's not country specific. When I look at what we're building, it's agnostic of any particular country, and that's brutally important when we look at things internally. Part of my lens when I worked at that company that had people in 17 countries, and I just opened my eyes about the power and certainly the beauty of diversity around the globe, diversity of language, diversity of thought, diversity of cultures and laws and so forth. We are starting from the beginning as an international conglomerate, as an enterprise. That's how we started, and we intend to continue to build, where we break down barriers and walls. If anything gets in our way, if anything, it might be time zones a little bit, but we don't use that as an excuse as we move forward. We do use English as our primary, basis of communication. And if anything, that may be the only kind of requirement, if you will, because that is how we hop on calls and with video chats. But I'll tell you, we have people that are flexible with their timelines and time zones around the globe as well. Another thing I'm going to say here is I love the passion we have from the community, and we look for the same, certainly representing, and helping build the metaverse. That's why, reaching into the community is a great place to start. We intend to get back to everybody because we know that we have people really committed to our cause, whether they're going to work for us or certainly be a strong member of our community. And to answer your question in terms of timelines, let me share this. Stephen's more frontline talking to people. I'm now doing more of a deep dive on the positions and qualifying the positions that will evolve in time. I'm the one who's kind of helping them with the careers website and the applicant tracking system. It's been a little hard because there hasn't been a total clarity on that until we can finalize things and get things up and operational on the website. So the question or the statement that I would leave you with there is it's less about no, and it's probably more about timing a lot of times, especially if they check a lot of boxes for our culture and the fit and finding the skills as we move forward. So we're still early stages, and we're still kind of maturing and defining who we are as we move forward. And we're not going to accept old corporate ways of doing things. We're going to challenge that status quo. But I'll tell you this. We do not favor one country over another. We do not favor one gender over another. We do not favor one generation over another. We want to be agnostic with all that. If anything, we pay homage and respect to those that firmly believe in what we're doing. And we're going to pay ultimate respect to those that really understand and are committed to trying to create that environment going forward. So if there are trouble with communication or barriers, we'll try to find ways around that. And we're still looking for tools that will enable that internal communication going forward so that we can bring on more and more people with various backgrounds going forward. It's just truly critically important that we do not have barriers in that space and that we're very accepting. Inclusivity is incredibly important because we all have that same common denominator of creating the coolest metaverse ever going forward. And that's what we're looking for in people that understand that cause. Outside of that, we covet differences. We covet different way of thought. And another thing that internally is we pay people for their brains. So we don't want people to necessarily stay in their lane, that figurative lane. We want people to go out there and share their ideas that may be outside their so-called designated skill. So ideation of thought and thoughts and how we can bring that to bear is just critically important. Anyway, that's just some food for thought, and don't give up. We're still forming our identity. We're still forming this future of work is present at Star Atlas, where maybe it may be mystical to others, it's magical to us, and that sparkle that we're going to create in this parallel universe, in the metaverse, we want to create something almost parallel with our introverse. And this is new ways of thinking from a talent lens. So just don't give up, my friend. Okay?
Yeah, Kelsey, really well said. And I just want to piggyback off you there. If you sent your, if you reached out to us now several times and you still haven't got back an answer, it must be lost somewhere in a spam folder that I haven't seen or one of our team members haven't seen. So, if you are having trouble like that, you can always reach out to one of us on Discord, right, and talk to us personally, right? That's kind of a good fallback if you're having trouble at all getting in contact with somebody. Like Kelsey mentioned, we really do try to aim to speak to everyone and get to know everyone in our community, even though as our community grows larger and larger, it definitely gets harder and harder to do, right? Especially as a team that's growing, and even in our HR and talent acquisition team, we're growing ourselves, and that's quite an exciting process too, by the way, because even in how we build our workforce, like what Kelsey said, we're strategizing, we're growing ourselves, and so we're going to be able to have more bandwidth to be able to respond to quick people a lot quicker, and that's when it comes down to as well. We really want to see that, like, don't give up. We really want to move you guys.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Hey,
of course.
Thanks. So whenever I can get on these conversations, I just love them. So thank you for spending the time on doing these. That's number one. Number two being, could you kind of give us an idea or context around like the segment? I mean, obviously this is a growing kind of thing, and I'm sure you guys have thoughts about all kinds of jobs for all kinds of roles, all departments. But for this phase of what you guys are doing, is there a segment that you guys are focusing on, as in, technical or community development or art or whatever else there may be, HR? Because if you're talking about 28 countries, I imagine you're going to need people processing some of these things. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. I feel bad with that. I had just cut out a little bit in that tail end. I think you're asking about, I heard the 28 countries, but was the question more about how we organize some of the positions going forward? If you don't mind, just take 30 seconds, because for some reason my connection cut out for a moment there.
Sure, no problem. In general, I just wanted to kind of get a context of what segments you guys are focusing on in terms of departments.
Gotcha.
Yeah, either one of us can go. I'll be brisk, and Steven focuses on this. But I'll tell you this: from our lens, if we break this down ratio-wise, 50% will probably be artists. Think game designers, game developers, lighting specialists, environmental artists, and so forth. Unreal Engine, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe 25% will be maybe on the blockchain engineering side, Rust, maybe background in Solidity, et cetera. But we won't always be that. But we're going to have a preponderance of technical. But I'll tell you, this other 25% is going to be lots of engines, such as marketing, social media, and certainly the support, both strategic and support, HR, legal, finance, IT, et cetera, et cetera. We're developing everything internally that we feel confident we can grow and scale and achieve what we're trying to build. But Those are and we do have functions that cover those right now, but we're breaking down some barriers that it's not all vertical. We're looking at horizontal movement and growth, and how do we have more of a 3D lens instead of a vertical lens? But let me hit pause and I'll turn to Stephen if he wants to expand on that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kelsey. I'll just, as a context to your question, I want to give that we are hiring and looking for a lot of numerous different roles in different departments. As what Kelsey mentioned, each one of those lanes we are hiring in. But a part of what Santi mentioned of wanting to do this conversation on the voice chat as opposed to our amphitheater is that we wanted to really talk to the community, right, and get a little more personal with you guys. Maybe not so much what we do on a town hall, and maybe go a little bit deeper, And so let me do that right now and go a little deeper and share with you guys maybe some of my top priorities of actual roles that we really have an initiative looking at talent in these lanes. And so the first part is in our RevOps, we're expanding our partnerships team. As you guys can imagine, we're getting hit up from a lot of different brands, a lot of different companies wanting to create partnerships. There are so many different opportunities. So we're growing out our partnerships team to be able to assess, and these are not just, sales and business development executives. These are analysts. These are research analysts. These are blockchain analysts. They're business analysts. These are people who have done partnerships in the past, right, in different lanes, in music, entertainment, fashion, brands, corporate sponsorships. And then, we have a really, really important side, the economics team. Michael always talks about it in our town halls that we're ever expanding our economics team. Right? What does that mean? It means our monetization world, right? Our tokenomics world, our token economy world. Someone who's, just really good in DeFi, understands the landscape, understands the cryptocurrency world from an economic standpoint. And then we also have, of course, and this is part of collaborating with our product team, is our actual game. This is another massive department that we're going to be building out. And these are some of our initiatives. We do have a couple other ones, right? Digital marketing is something that we're really expanding on right now. It includes growth engineers. That includes social media managers. It includes content producers. It includes content writers. By the way, we love hiring from our community. There's nothing better. And we're doing that right now. We're in the process of sending more offers out this week to our community, and we're really excited about it. You guys will see more and more announcements. Oh, this community member is we're bringing him onto the crew, bringing her onto the crew. It's a wonderful feeling because there's no one better than our own community members that have invested their time and invested their passions into this vision, who understand it the most. We want to tap into that energy. Right? We want to tap into how can you guys bring value to your passions of your life to this company?
Thanks for sharing all the insights, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. These are awesome.
Yeah, I have one job description here that the RevOps team sent me. If someone is interested, please apply, because they told me that we are really looking for this position, and it is the digital ad campaign coordinator. It will be digital advertising campaign coordinator. He will be tasked with implementing the digital campaign manager's marketing plan with special attention on Asia. So if you want to apply, just feel free to send your resume for this position at jobs@staratlas.com. And I have more questions for you, Stephen. I know that you are kind of against the clock right now. How are you with time right now?
We're all right, Santi. We're all right.
Okay, we're all right. I have a question from the community that was asked on the voice chat related, and I think it's really good. and it is if you get recruited in Star Atlas, are you restricted to be working solely for Star Atlas, or are you allowed to work on another place also? If it is a full-time job, does the wage reflect the wage in the country you live in?
Those are both great questions. Let me answer the second one first. As far as your wages reflect upon where your country is, in every country, people make different salaries, right? And it also goes with the different economic structures of where they're from. Sometimes it's a matter of their currency, and we want to be able to respect where they're living, and we want to meet where they are, right? It doesn't mean that we're undercompensating. In fact, if we look at our track record, I'm sure Kelsey would agree that, in fact, we overcompensate, regardless of where they're from around the world. And we want to be fair. We want to be also a place where our talent is not being able to worry about, oh man, like I don't have money right now to pay for my bills next month. We want them to be having that freedom, as Kelsey mentioned, is one of our tenants, to be able to focus fully on their work. When I say focus fully, let me now transition to your first question of whether we're hiring only full-time staff. No, we're not only hiring full-time staff. In fact, that also goes along with how we want to create this boundaryless, this freedom-focused ethos. We do hire some roles that we could hire part-time. There are some other roles, not all of them, that perhaps they could be more on the freelance side. They could work on other projects. But I would say the majority of our roles that we're hiring, we really want their full-time attention. We really want their full-time focus. And it requires that, right? Like you guys know, this project is massive. And in every lane, we have to put our full dedication. By the way, even if it's a part-time, people are putting their full dedication, even if they're not putting those hours. There's no clocking in, as Kelsey mentioned. No one's micromanaging you around your back. Like, are you getting your work done? You're getting work done. Did you work this many hours a week? It's about deliverables, right? And we focus on those deliverables. And so I hope that answers those two questions, Santi.
Yeah. Hey, if I can,
Kelsey, I don't know if you have anything to. Yeah.
No, you're spot on, Stephen. I'm just going to add the following: that, and this is a space I've spent a lot of time in. There's cost of living and there's cost of wages. Comp experts look at cost of wages. That's what it costs in a certain market, and that's generally what we do. We also, an old school way was saying, hey, what did you make? And then they just give you a little raise from that. We benchmark based on comp surveys like Radford or World at Work. We'll buy these surveys to get competitive wages. So we know what the markets bear, and we can do that on a global basis. And we actually may go, we know where we market price these positions going forward, but we pay based on the position, not what someone's maybe earned in the past. So I wanted to say that we do have some intelligence and we think about it. We're also maturing this because compensation is certainly base salary, but we have a pretty healthy and we're maturing our incentive compensation program that I won't break down here, but incentives are also important for the company and positions. Lastly, I will also dovetail and say what Stephen said, that we don't want to restrict the different worker types. It's employee, contractor, or even vendor. We'll evaluate what might work best. We certainly have certain provisions that we need to protect our IP and confidentiality that we need people to agree to. But we try to be as flexible as possible to be able to meet the needs of whatever position that person might fill. So we're not looking at putting constraints on it, but we certainly need to see what we can to make it work for all parties involved. That's where I get involved.
Thanks for the answer, guys. Really appreciate it. And again, I want to ask you, Kelsey, Stephen, how are you with time? We are over an hour right now, so just want to check.
I can take one more question.
Okay, perfect. So I would like the last question to be asked in the voice chat. So if someone wants to unmute, this is the moment.
I'd be happy to ask a question. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. My name's DJ. I go by DJ at the Science Doc. And as a brain doctor, I was very impressed. I agree with Stephen. You're on the bleeding edge. That's why I sought out Star Atlas. And Kelsey, thanks for getting back to me. And I think my question to you, Stephen, is what's involved in the socializing process that you use there? And then I would like to leave you with a little bit of a vision, if I may, and that is that what you're doing is not only going to be bleeding edge in the gaming universe, but when you apply VR headsets, and we have a new 3D brain mapping system we're developing, when you apply that haptic feedback and everything else that's going to happen in the next few years with the metaverse, you're going to totally change medicine and the way we're able to reach out and influence and provide health in communities all over the world.
Yeah, I thank you for your sentiment and that vision. That's a beautiful vision, and I love it when it doesn't matter from what angle you're looking at this. The applications are so boundaryless, and that's another beautiful thing. I want to just go back to and sorry if I have to ask again. I didn't really fully understand your question in the beginning. If you can please repeat the question.
Oh, sure. I had some communication with Kelsey around the beginning of the year, and then I was on vacation and you were on vacation, and let's see, and then Kelsey told me there's a process that you guys use called socialization, and I was curious to hear more about how that works.
Yeah, first of all, it's great to hear your voice, man. We did exchange some information, and I love what you do, and I love the fact that you see where the future's going in your craft. It's wicked cool. You can't see me. I'm just smiling on my end because it's going to affect all of us in the future. HR, talent, how we communicate, how we live our lives in so many different ways. What's going to be fascinating is we're talking about socialization, and we haven't totally formed it just yet, because the future of the world, as we know, are these kind of the parallel lives, and we're going to see how we're going to be able to communicate and operate in this metaverse. And what's keen to us is to ensure that we can maximize our socialization so that we still get we get our voices heard, but on top of that, we have our feelings felt. We're sentient beings, which means that we're emotional, and we act in certain ways because we feel certain things. Not always, but generally we do. And when we socialize, we're community people. As introverted as I may be, we still need interaction with others. So when I said socialization, this is our HR craft to move forward to say, how do we socialize in this new, more digital space and still feel that connectedness that we're talking about to some degree? It's very opaque. It's very philosophical, but we like to live on the fringes a bit and understand how we can still find what that means. We haven't totally defined what that means. Socialization is a word that's been around forever, but we're trying to understand what does it mean to us in the metaverse going forward. And it's very loose terms, but we're trying to bring that to bear when it comes to talent and so forth. So I'll have to leave it at that for now, but that's really kind of what I was getting at.
Hey, Kelsey, if you don't mind me adding on to something there that I think is really, really helpful, especially in a lot of the candidates that we receive, is, some of the talent that comes across our emails, they're so talented that they can do numerous things, right? Like they can do monetization, they can do talent, they can also do content writing, and a part of what I think what is helpful in our socialization strategy is that we have this collaborative energy with the team to say, where's the best place for this guy, or this gal, and that's not one person like me, Steven, or you, Kelsey. That's not two persons' role. We need to talk to the function leaders and say, hey, do you think this person can support your guys' initiatives in your department right now? That's what that socialization, maybe in more principal terms can you can think of how we actually execute that.
Right on. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys, again for the answers, and thank you everyone for the questions. And well, we'll let you go, Steven, if you need to jump.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm about to hop on a flight back to Panama. By the way, whoever asked about the Latin American community, I would say that we are receiving amazing talent. In fact, we're about to send an offer to someone in Argentina. I've been living in Panama, right, as I mentioned, and we also just hired someone full-time in Panama as well. Guys, send your resumes in. Reach out to us. It doesn't matter where you're from. As Kelsey mentioned, of course, like English is the language that we use to communicate. But regardless of where you're from, really don't discriminate that. And that's a part of our ethos of building a global workforce.
Thank you for clarifying that, Steven. And I think that I am kind of the living proof of that, because I have always been living here in Argentina since I started working at Star Atlas and prior. And I have never been treated any differently just for being in Argentina, and not even in salary or compensation. So yeah, just go for it, guys, for real.
Hey, Santi, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get on board with Star Atlas? Like, how did you find out about it?
Yeah, Santi,
that's a
great
good one.
question.
Yeah.
Put him on the spot.
No, for real. It's a great question. I have been in crypto full time since 2019, and I started doing the research on Axie and play to earn games in early 2021. And I found Axie a little bit boring for the style, for my gaming style. It's a lot more like FPS, and I needed something with, I prefer something with more quality. And not saying that Axie is bad. Again, I always like to clarify this. Axie is clearly, they are the real pioneers, and what they built is awesome. But I just didn't find it good for me. So I thought that there should be something else, something of AAA quality, and that I will enjoy really playing, combined with crypto. So I started doing the research and found Star Atlas, and it was back in February 2021, so it was kind of early in the community. I joined the communities. We had 1,000 people on Telegram, and we had here on Discord probably like 600 people or even less. And I did the research and saw that they had an open position for community manager. So I applied, and I had the calls directly, the interviews with Pablo, Chief Revenue Officer and co-founder at Star Atlas, because in that moment you had the calls directly with the co-founders. There were only, I think, 25, 30 people in the team. So I had 3 calls with Pablo, got hired the day of my birthday, and so far it has been the greatest experience of my life. So that's how I got into Star Atlas.
I believe it. We're thankful for having you and all of you who are part of this. I appreciate all of that.
Thank you.
We love our chief janitor, Santi.
We love you. We love you, Santi.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you so much. So, Kelsey, how are you with time? Can you take one more question, or do you have to leave?
Yeah. No,
Okay,
whatever. This is. I love this stuff. So whatever you want.
Yeah. So let's take one more, Kelsey, and feel free to.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, this question was actually for Kelsey, which is he talked about communication, and then he went on to say a lot of other stuff, and I was just wondering, some of these stuff seem like buzzwords, so I was wondering, when you say communication, you're talking like Bridgewater style Ray Dalio communication, where it's honest communication, as he would put it, I believe he said radical honesty, where people get to speak what on their minds, or are we talking more like what occurs in most tech companies now, where like in Google as well as Netflix, we have to, in other words, use a certain level of political correctness in our speech. And I just want to know what kind of
we might have lost. I think I got the gist of that. If you can hear me, I'll just take. And I think it's great because I think today I have been talking a little more philosophy. I don't say fluff, but and I haven't gotten to very specifics, and I'd be happy to dive into them. But let's unpack communication a bit. If I had to break this down, one is be authentic. Number one, be yourself. We want people to have their own thoughts, have their own minds, and share what's on their minds. If we create a culture that in any way, shape, or form restricts the thoughts, whatever topic it might be, we feel like we're losing value. And so when it comes to communication, we want be yourself, whatever comes to mind. Number two is if there's concerns about things, we want to hear it and make sure that when you do address it, the only thing we ask is let's make sure that you treat others how you want to be treated. Maybe address it with that person or get me involved a little bit, but we don't penalize in any way, shape, or form when people have some things they want to understand. Things are moving fast, so also from communication, we don't always get it right. Being vulnerable is, in a weird way, a leadership trait that we covet. And when it comes to communication, it's not about being right wins, it's about understanding. One tenet we believe in is clarity. We're constantly trying to provide clarity for our community, clarity for our team members, clarity with our objectives, because things are moving lightning fast. And communication helps drive that. And quite frankly, we don't always get it right. So we need to hear from our team members and community about things that we're needing to provide, and we take all that to heart as we move forward. So if we look at that, I would say those more than anything help kind of drive that. It's not about what language you speak or trying to restrict your style or forcing you to fit in a way that doesn't always fit for us. I'm gonna here's an example without belaboring this too much, and this is not meant to be a bad example. At the company Amazon, anytime you go to a meeting, it's pretty well known that you need to write a pretty lengthy topic. And the reason behind that is don't just have a meeting to have a meeting, but let's make sure that there's clear objectives with it. There's unintended consequences with that. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of thoughts that aren't shared because people don't want to go through that dissertation of writing that for that meeting. What we try to create is this form that says, if you feel it's worthy, we'll hear you. We want to understand what you have to say because we don't want to miss out on it. And by the way, from a talent lens, when things are festering underneath the surface and you're not wanting to bring it up, that's not going to go away on its own. And we don't want that for anybody. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit. I'll tell you this, communication from an HR lens is one of the most important things that you can really kind of help clarify internally what that looks and feels like. And that's why I'm glad you asked that question, because you might have a culture that supports, this sense of fear, right? A fear-based environment. And you're more concerned about how you're going to be perceived rather than getting your point across. And we work extra hard to try to get rid of that so that people feel like they can communicate and share their ideas as they go forward. It's our ideas and our innovation that we feel that's going to propel us forward. And we're going to work hard not to stifle that. And that's all done in that communication lens. Santi, could you hear that?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
I was waiting to see if Jamin had any follow-ups or anything.
Santi, would you do me a favor? Send me his contact. I want to see if there's anything more I can answer for him if we lost him. Would you do that favor and thank him for me?
For sure. I have him.
I didn't want to interrupt you, and I thought, I had my time. Let me just give the mic to somebody else now.
Thanks for asking the question. It's nice to meet you.
You too. I guess one thing I would say is just that when I think about Ray Dalio and his radical honesty within his company, and then I think about Amazon and Netflix and the way those guys, in other words, kind of, you think about it as artistic. I realize artistic driven kind of companies tend to have more of the creative type people who seem to want environments where they can meet people of a like mind and have everyone kind of think the same. Whereas with Ray Dalio, because he's dealing with finances, they need to have radical honesty because they're dealing with money and they need to make profit, and they can't really allow students to give them losses. So we now in this community is kind of like a blending of finance and artistry, and therefore now we have to think about, well, which one of these brains going to control money obviously will be very important, but we also need the talent of artists to do what we need them to do. I am an artist, but it's like where we would draw that balancing line between artists' feelings and money.
Yeah, it's such an important thing. Culture. We're talking culture here, and I've been focused on culture in companies for a long time. And by the way, culture is not easy. I don't like the phrase culture management because they don't manage culture, because it's going to occur whether you manage it or not. It's going to occur. So I like culture aspiration. We have our cultural tenets that inspire us, and we don't want to corral it. We want to make sure that we address it and we can aspire towards them. Those are, as I said, the community, innovation, as well as freedom as we move forward. But you're right. We get to define kind of the culture. Now, the main thing is we don't want to contradict ourselves. Otherwise, it's not authentic. And we want to make sure that we kind of hire people based on that. We can base decisions on that going forward. The other thing, we're still young and we're forming a lot. And we use our core values as we help make these decisions as we go forward. And when we're creating something that's never been created before, we don't want to have the old ways of having a workplace that doesn't seem to complement that. So when we're creating this never been created, broad metaverse with immutable history, with blockchain mechanics and sizable, significant impact in many ways, visually, from an auditory sense, and certainly from a gameplay and the impact on our lives that it can affect us all the way about it. We don't want to have an old school internal introverse. So we're looking and we're talking about how do we have an internal introverse as expansive and progressive as the metaverse that we intend to create. And creating that culture, we use some of those tenets we talk about, and communication, how we talk to each other, and that vibe and that sincerity that we have, and that sense that you can reach out to anyone at any time. And we're not hung up on titles per se. We're really all kind of moving forward and trying to work towards that vision. But you're right. I will say this: when you hire creative types, what's important to them may be different than maybe a financial planner. And so from my lens, I have to champion it. I don't own it, but I have to champion how do we create this global remote first workplace ecosystem that's going to hopefully be a progressive environment that allows people to be as productive and fulfilled as possible. So HR and talent is still a fairly new profession, 70 years old. And when it first came about, it was, how do you force productivity? That's what it was in the 50s and 60s more than anything. HR really wasn't before that. 80s and 90s with Microsoft, Jack Welch and the ABC model, you started thinking more of, fear management, right? And we're going to fire the bottom 10%. That doesn't work anymore, and that's not what we want. We want to, in HR, we're doing two things at all times. We're trying to create an environment that allows people to be as productive as possible. And take this into your own work environments. How can you be as productive as possible? But at the same time, we want people to be as fulfilled as possible. That's the brain and the heart that I'm talking about. And if we solve that equation and we create an environment that allows people to do that, man, you got magic at that point. I love this space because I have certain other beliefs that I'm going to share with you, and then I'll hit pause. But one of my beliefs is you can't motivate anybody. It's impossible. it's only possible for us to feel motivated. I can't go out there and motivate Santi. I can do everything I can, but if he doesn't want to feel motivated, he can't. So my job is to create an environment, and I'm talking culture. That could be communication, and that could be various forms of compensation, and that could be our systems that we use to communicate to each other, and that could be how I equip our people managers to really bring out the best in people. All of that helps shape our culture, but our goal is to create an environment that allows people to be as productive and fulfilled as possible so that we can really maximize this opportunity. But this is stuff for textbooks, and this is where I spend my free time. I geek out on it, and I'm an imperfect person. I know that about myself, so I have to learn from others, and we're just trying to bring to bear what's going to be right for us as we move forward. So perhaps a little too long-winded, I apologize, but it's a fun space for me to play in.
Kelsey. Yeah, go ahead, friend. I think somebody wanted to talk. Okay, I guess he doesn't. Thank you, Kelsey, for all. Oh, someone is speaking.
Were you gonna end it, Santi?
Yeah, we're gonna end it, man. I think we have been going for 1 hour and a half. I think it has been great. It has been great, and I really appreciate you, Kelsey and Steven, joining us. I know that you both are super busy guys, so I really appreciate you being here with us. I think that it really adds a lot of value to the community and provides everyone a huge level of insight on how things work inside Star Atlas, how we hire, and how being a person working at Star Atlas is. So I feel like it adds a lot of value to the community, and thanks again, Kelsey, for joining, and well, Steven as well.
If Steven, I just want 1 minute to say some things here too. Is people like you, Santi? I gotta sing your praises. Just one of the coolest, nicest people you're ever gonna meet. He's as nice and genuine, one-on-one as you hear in the community, right? And he's there for everybody, and that's just him as a human being. You know, I don't know a lot, and I'm still learning. I learn from others every single day. And I've got to give a quick shout out to our team members, because that's who I get fulfillment from them every single day. I don't look at the hours, I look at what we're trying to achieve, and that's what makes me happy every day in and out. But I also have to turn to our community, because I'm a community member first and foremost, and that's where I belong as well, with all of you out there, because I'm going to be joining in a lot of fun going forward through all of this. I'll leave you with this. We are built on talent. And we're built on people. We're built on people with their ideas. And I'm going to work tirelessly to help create a workplace ecosystem that is structured with the systems and the tools and other ways of how we communicate. And we're going to put more maturity in terms of our compensation, and more maturity in terms of, you know, development opportunities and training programs. But I'll tell you this, it all stems from those people who started out, including Santi and Pablo and Michael and Danny and Jacob. These are real human beings that care deeply about what we're doing, and all of you mean a lot to them, and they really do a nice job of setting the stage. And I'm just trying to roll out a lot of what they put together as a vision. So, if there are other imperfect people that are passionate about certain things, I can talk shop about HR or talent, and certainly about Star Atlas going forward, because this is home. But even if there's things you can take to your own current employer, I carve out a lot of time to talk about this and answer questions wherever it might be, because where you spend a lot of your time, and that's with employment, I hope that you can do those two things, find how you're most productive and how you're most fulfilled, and challenge the status quo in a good way to really set out, because, you know, life to me is really meant about finding that happiness and that fulfillment capability. So I hope you can find what I've found, and I'd love to talk about Star Atlas if you want along the way. But first and foremost, we're human beings. We have feelings. We have passions, and I've always felt if you can find that passion in people, you get something that is really hard to measure. And skills, yeah, there are some skills. We had a brain doctor on the phone. That's pretty massive skill. Don't take me wrong there, but there are other skills that you can still learn along the way. that we can help train and develop along the way too. But yeah, we do certainly need certain skills, but it's the passion that we look for that we're looking for. So thanks to you, Santi. You're one in a million, seriously, and our team members, anybody listening, but certainly our community. So I'd love to be here. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much.
Santi is amazing.
Thank you a lot. Thank you a lot
Thank
for
you,
your
Santi.
kind words, man. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, man.
So this was the Working at Star Atlas special event. I hope that I'm sure that we will do this again. So thanks everyone for being here with us. We love you, and power to the people.
Power to the people.
Take it to the man. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks. Awesome. Have a good time. Good one.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Very insightful.
Hey, thanks for being here. It's all about you, man. Seriously.